Nithyanandam Paramashivoham Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasya Dilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Welcome to everybody. Namaste. Welcome to Hindus Talking About Hindumesia, which is a presentation of Hinduism Now Global Press, the journeys and experiences of Hindus as they explore their lives. And my name is Saiswaroopa. I am based out of the Columbus, Ohio area, and I'm representing Hinduism Now here. I'd like to introduce you to our distinguished guests, Saiswaroopa Iyer ji, and I'm going to invite you, Saiswaroopa ji, to give us a brief introduction about yourself.
Yes. Thank you so much, Saiswaroopa ji. Shri Matre Namaha, Shri Ramajayam to everyone. Thanks a lot for this opportunity to interact on Hinduism Now. I see the FB page, they share a lot of wonderful stuff, wonderful content that every Hindu needs to be aware of. So yes, about me, I'm Saiswaroopa, an author, investment professional turned very satisfied author who has taken to her passion, my calling to write about my books. I'll come to them a bit later. So yes, with your permission, Saiswaroopa ji, because we have some time to share about personal journeys, and the format of your interviews allows for that personal journeys to be shared with the viewers. So with that, with your assurance, let me come to my first book, of how I turned a writer from the normal, mainstream career of tech, finance, and stuff like that. So this was a conversation I had with a Muslim friend of mine way back in early college days, where she asked me why we Hindus love Lord Krishna so much, though he has so many wives. So, and it was an innocent question. It was not a not a malicious question, not like what happens in the social media now, everyone trying to provoke each other, but it was a healthy conversation at grassroots. So I told her the story of Narakasura Vadha from the Bhagavatam, of how Krishna killed Narakasura, but he discovered that Narakasura had actually imprisoned 16,000 women against their will. And the story was not over with just killing Narakasura. Krishna also had to think about bringing back those women to mainstream life.
Right.
And in order to facilitate a dignified life to all of them, he actually married them. The conversation ended well. So this looked fine to me. Like, a Muslim girl who does not know enough Puranic stories, asking for details. And now, a couple of years down the line, during my college days, some Hindu girls asked me the same question.
Okay.
Then I just felt, okay, something is wrong. I can still understand non-Hindus trying to understand Hinduism by asking questions. That's totally great. But Hindus who are supposed to know their past, their history, their scriptures, at least at a and Narakasura Vadha is not a very rare story. We celebrate Deepavali. The day before Deepavali is Naraka Chaturdashi, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a popular festival. It's not like a very rare, regional festival or something like that. It's a festival that Hindus all over the globe celebrate.
Right.
So I just felt something is kind of wrong in Hindus having their connect with their past, and something is going wrong and it has to be set right. How it took me a while to figure out, but parallelly with all these conversations happening, my mind started dwelling upon the details of Bhagavatam upon Lord Krishna. I am a lover of Lord Krishna. I'm also a worshipper of Shakti. I'm a Sri Vidya Upasaka, recently initiated. But my mother, she chants Lalita Sahasranama every weekly at least once. But even when she used to get time on other days, so something like praying to Devi and praying to all our gods, it was something that got inculcated into me in a very natural manner, and I consider myself very fortunate and proud to be brought up in such a family. So with this background, I thought it's something of my calling. I have to do something from my side to bridge this gap which is widening. And so I started thinking about this story from the perspective of one of those women rescued by Krishna. And even then I didn't think it would be a book, right? I just thought it's just, my hyperactive imagination. I'm an only child and I was brought up with all these wonderful stories. So it was common for me to imagine being in the times of Mahabharata, trying to imagine a conversation with Krishna, Arjuna, all those people of our past, wonderful past. And so I just thought this is just my hyperactive imagination, but it just went on and on, creating its own story. And I started writing it just to capture what's happening in my mind. I started writing it. And then, draft after draft, after a whole draft was done, I actually realized that, okay, this could actually make a book. Mm-hmm. And that's when I took it seriously and started learning the craft of fiction, because I'm trained in engineering and then went about doing my MBA, then worked with an IT company, specialized in entrepreneurship, and that was my mainstream career. So I had no formal training in creative writing or the craft of fiction writing, or the kind of liberties that can be taken, whether I can take this kind of liberty or not. So all these were new to me, and I started reading more of this genre, starting from Telugu. My mother tongue is Telugu. The Telugu text, the Potana Bhagavatam, Srimad Andhra Mahabhagavatam, that is the Telugu version of Bhagavatam. And the poems are just totally mesmerizing. So if Vyasa's Bhagavatam can be considered the root, so the Potana's Bhagavatam for me is the fruit. So it's some kind of all the rasa added, right from bhakti to shringara to all the rasas added very beautifully. So I observed the kind of creative liberties that those ancient poets took. So creative liberty is not a new thing that we kind of discovered in the 21st century. It existed from the times of Kalidasa.
Okay.
Yes. So there used to be a reason for why, reason behind why they kind of departed. There is a rasa theory. There is the whole nataka structure, the drama structure that they followed. And, so just like English stories have a 3-act structure, the Sanskrit natakas had a certain structure, much more, much more complex than the English language popular literature. So there used to be a reason behind each of their creative liberties. And now come the 20th century, later half of 20th century, and the literature that came out in English language that was based on our epics, the popular literature. there was a lot of distortion, right? And the way creative liberty
could you clarify a little bit when you say distortion? What are you referring to?
Yes, so I'd say I don't want to take names here, but just to give an example, Bhasa Mahakavi is one of the very great poets. He is the first poet who explored the epics through antagonists' lens, like Urubhangam, he explored it through the eyes of Mahabharata, through the eyes of Duryodhana.
Okay.
Peni Samhara. But in that in that attempt, their aim was to send a message that even great people can fail if they can fall if they move away from the path of dharma. So it is a wake-up call for people like us, for people of any time period. It's a wake-up call saying your education, your family, your lineage, or your position, your social, what all that make you may not be able to save you if you go away from the path of dharma. That was the combined message of every poet who used to explore these stories. That was But then what I want to make a distinction between what I call as distorted literature is when the facts from the root literature are changed, and then conclusions are based on those changed narratives. And then that is used to popularize a certain narrative that creates a divide in the society.
Okay, so these are alternate narratives, but there's a vested interest behind them. Is that what you're saying? Suggesting?
Yes, vested interest, and not really not having a strong foundation in the root. This one. So sorry, I know I'm taking a lot of time in explaining.
It sounds like speculative. It's like a speculative thesis that's being
speculative thesis with with the not so healthy intent behind. If it, even I love speculative genre also, but if it's actually speculative in an explorative sense, where the poet, the storyteller is honest.
See, what is the scope of this? Because to be honest with you, I am not really familiar with what you're referring to, and I know you're being a little bit cautious. You're not sure what you want to name, but I'm not necessarily asking you to name them. But like, was there a certain period in which this happened, or did it happen over an extended period of time, or are these historically significant? I mean, can you just give a little more scope and definition to this? It's up to you. It may not be very important, but if you feel you're able to, please do that.
Yes. Again, as I said, I'm not a literature major. So my perspective is that of somebody who loves the subject of Mahabharata and basically Indian history. My comfort field is Mahabharata. And the narratives that spring out from there. So a very popular narrative, I'm not naming the writers, but a very popular narrative of these distorted writers is that Karna, who's a popular character.
Right.
Karna was discriminated because of his birth. Because of his community, because he was a Sutaputra, and he was discriminated against that, and he was not given that education, and he had to lie and all that. And one cursory reading of the Mahabharata tells you that Karna was not denied education. He was educated in the ashrama of Dronacharya. He was given that basic archery, everything. Where Dronacharya stopped him was in turning him back when he sought the Brahmastra.
Okay.
So Brahmastra is an advanced weapon that manipulates nature to utmost limits. right? And that has to be given to people who can show that restraint. The Shama, Dama, Titiksha, the qualities of, those 6 qualities have to be there. So Drona in his life, he only gave it to, if I can count, if I'm remember right, only 3 people in his students.
Okay.
That is Arjuna, Yudhishthira, and Ashwatthama, his own son.
Right. Okay.
So in these 3 people, as a teacher and a father, he saw warriors who would think twice or thrice before using the Brahmastra.
Okay.
And he was sure that these 3 would use only in defense, not in, not with greed or not. Well, so that was Drona's judgment. He did not give Brahmastra to Bhima. He did not give Brahmastra to Duryodhana because he knew that these 2 men, their temperament was not very balanced and they are given quick to anger.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So yes, so these kind of nuances get missed out, and because not everybody has the time to read through the details of the Mahabharata. And at the crust level, at the top level, these kind of narratives are peddled saying there was a lot of caste discrimination. Look at Karna. And in fact, when we read through the Mahabharata, we see that the Suta caste, or even the word is not a right word, the Suta community was given so much of respect and so much of liberty. And where do we get that? The conversation of Dhritarashtra and Sanjaya when they discuss the war. Sanjaya is a Suta himself. He's a charioteer.
Okay.
And when he's openly saying all the details of the war, and Dhritarashtra keeps asking him, why are these things happening to me? Why are only my sons getting killed? And, all those things. And Sanjaya, without mincing words, he keeps saying, this is the result of your karma.
Okay.
You did not act when you are supposed to act. And whatever is happening now is the result of your karma. And then, that talks about the liberty that a charioteer enjoys with his king. A Suta has that liberty to tell his king that, you deserve this.
Okay.
So that was the real ancient India.
Right.
Where everybody speaking truth was not afraid. And those are the nuances that get missed out, when these distorted narratives start getting
this revisionistic stories and okay.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So I just gave you one example.
Right.
And once we start reading and comparing, then we lose count.
Right. So really, I mean, they're being projecting themselves as being authentic to the source, but in reality, they are closer. It's like almost fiction. If it's if it's distorting the basic underlying original theme, then okay.
Yes, even fiction, I say, has a creator's. I write fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are a lot of creative elements that I use while exploring these stories.
Right.
And there are other writers that I respect a lot who use the same thing. But then I give this comparison of how liberty should be used, how I see that liberty should be used. We have the beautiful story of Ganga and Bhagiratha, goddess Ganga and Bhagiratha, who did tapasya for Ganga to descend.
Mm-hmm.
Bhagiratha had one aim. His ancestors had to be, blessed by Mother Ganga so that, they attain the higher lokas. But Mother Ganga had her own plans. She doesn't simply follow Bhagiratha in his path. She comes, she diverges, she reconverges, she has tributaries and she has them merging and, she blesses a whole civilization in her way, but reaches where Bhagiratha, ultimately she does reach that place where Bhagiratha wanted. That was her purpose. But in serving her purpose, she used to slip away from the planned path of the journey, but ultimately used to find her way back to it. So I think, storytellers who are exploring the Mahabharata we need to take inspiration from this. As long as we come back to echo with the words of Veda Vyasa, with the words of Valmiki, with the words of those rishis, it's fine to take liberties.
Okay. Okay. So just to get back to something you mentioned earlier, you were talking about the story of one of the women that Krishna married, who was
Yes.
So did you actually write a novel based on that, where you imagined the life of a? Okay, which?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So this was my first book, and as well as my latest book. That's an interesting story that I'll tell you. So Abhaya was a name that I gave to my heroine because through her, I think I could explore a bit of Krishna through her eyes. And in writing a story, imagining to be saved by Krishna and marrying Krishna is something, but in writing a story that makes sense, I had to research. Now this story is in the Bhagavatam, right? But to actually make it historically sit, I had to reconcile it with the events of the Mahabharata.
Okay.
So parallelly, I had to think, okay, when this is going on, what would have been the parallel plot of the Mahabharata? This should have probably taken place during the Rajasuya period. Before the Rajasuya, the Pandavas were busy trying to expand their kingdom, and this would have parallelly happened. So my heroine, she comes from a small kingdom in the western Bharatavarsha. So what would be the political, macro-political standing of that small kingdom? And so the story developed on its own as I read more and more. And also I found a very interesting parallel to Narakasura himself, where the Pragjyotishapura, if we take it as Assam, modern day Assam, the Guwahati Kamakhya Shakti Pitha, there are also legends that say, the scriptures, the Shakta scriptures, that say Narakasura was also a Shakti devotee.
Okay.
Who lost his way, who forgot that he was a worshipper and started usurping power. And one fine day, the goddess killed him. So that is the Shakta lore. And the Vaishnava lore says Krishna killed him. So it was an interesting exercise for me to reconcile these both, because Krishna and Shakti are also very deeply linked. In Sri Vidya, the Anahata Chakra, Krishna is the lord of the Anahata Chakra, that stands for unconditional love.
Okay.
And Krishna and Shakti, they were born at the same time. She was born as Yogamaya. And she is the one who gives warning. So there's a lot of closeness between Krishna and Shakti at a spiritual plane that I got to explore while writing Abhaya. So that's my first book. And interestingly, when I wrote my first draft, of course, I'm not proud of the first draft. That will have a lot of flaws. Then I started exploring publishing. This was 2012, 2013. I started exploring the avenues to get that published. Then I hired a literary agent. Somebody advised me there are agents who know the world of publishing, so they'll handhold you through the process instead of you going to them and getting rejected and all that. Then this was the time I had a serious, great view of how those distortion mechanism works. Because he told me a lot of stuff as to, what kind of stories the publishers would like. See, you have to hone your character this way, that way, give her something to, all those kind of, there's a father-daughter relationship in my book, and which is a very close this one to me. I grew up listening to stories from my father, and with all around me, I see fathers very affectionate and very protective of their daughters, and that's a beautiful relationship to explore in a story. But this guy started telling me, okay, yeah, let him be more partial towards the son, then that will make the reader more root for her.
Okay.
So she'll have she'll have some kind of a dissatisfaction from the childhood, and she'll look forward all those things. And I was a little naive at that time. I started rewriting the story as he was suggesting, and some 50, 60 pages down the line, I just realized this is not my story. This is totally not what I wanted to write. So that gave me a long writer's block. Then I just felt like I have to do it by myself, the way let me learn the craft again, let me tear everything apart and learn the craft by reading some good books. And then I learned it and I rewrote the whole thing, and I didn't want this kind of experience to repeat with me. So what I did was I decided I'll self-publish. And Amazon had a wonderful it even today it has a wonderful self-publishing platform. Only thing is that I decided to hire an editor to fine hone the whole manuscript from a editor, to make it look more professional, like how a traditionally published book would look, and that paid off. And once I published it, truly, I think Lord Krishna and Mother blessed me with a lot of nice things along my way. So there was my association with Indic Academy in India, where where I could get mentored by a lot of scholars who are a part of Indic Academy, and they also promoted my book. And I felt really confident to pursue this career.
Okay.
The next book, I wanted to challenge myself a little bit because as I was researching for Abhaya, I stumbled upon this story of Vishpala. I think a couple of days back, Hinduism Now FB page shared this wonderful detail about Queen Vishpala of Rigveda.
Okay, was that connected with your book, or was that a separate?
Yes, my second book.
So
that was the cover image of my self-published version of that.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is the new cover.
Okay.
So here I discovered Vishpala's story while I was writing Abhaya. Again, as I said, there was this scene in Abhaya where the father and daughter, my Abhaya was like 6-7 years old. Her father was trying to make her eat lunch and trying to tell her a story. That's how we all grew up, listening to stories while we ate food from our mothers, fathers, grandparents. And so I wanted him to narrate a very inspiring story to her. Like I grew up listening to stories of Rani Lakshmi Bai, Shivaji Maharaj, Rani Rudrama Devi, the history, all the brave people from history. So Abhaya should have grown up listening to brave people from her history. Only caveat is that I needed that warrior queen to be from the before the times of Mahabharata.
Right.
Okay. Right. And so I started searching for Vedic queens, Vedic warrior queens, and all those with all those keywords. And very interesting thing was that one of the results was a conference souvenir, a conference document on prosthesis from an Israeli university.
Okay.
Yeah, so the first chapter was history of prosthesis, and there they mentioned prosthesis. The idea of prosthesis was first mentioned in the Rigveda.
Okay.
So world's first mention of prosthesis was from the Rigveda.
So what approximately what time frame are we talking about here? If you look at the calendar, is that about 1500 BC? Are we talking around 1200?
Much older than that. Much older than that, Tirtharupaji. The scholars that I spoke to can place her about in 3000 BC, because the Rigveda has a very long range of dates.
Okay. Yeah, please proceed.
So this particular could be 3000 BC. And again, the another logic for my guess is that most of these Vedic stories get retold in the Puranas.
Okay.
And this is one of those rare stories which does not get retold, which means that the Puranic memory itself, has lost the details of that story.
Okay.
So it has to be really, really old.
Right, right.
So I started exploring Vedic India, and I found this very compelling. One thing was kind of humbling was that I didn't know about Vishpala's story, and I used to feel very proud of my knowledge. I grew up listening to these stories, and I've read that, I've read this, and I didn't know about Vishpala. That itself was a humbling experience. And the more humbling experience was that I had to learn from about her from an Israeli university document and not from
Right,
any Indian site. So that
right.
was another.
Yeah, I mean, I know that this is an aside again, that a lot of the Vedas that are being translated, or some of them, not necessarily Vedas and Agamas, some of them are only available through their French translations, etc., which is so, it's not entirely a foreign concept. But yeah, please, yeah.
Yeah, same thing. So I just felt this is too compelling a story that we cannot just let it go. It has to be popularized in whatever way. So that time I just decided, once I'm done with Abhaya, I should probably come back to the story. So I started reading about the Rigvedic culture, and the Rigvedic India was a lot different from the Mahabharata India. Time India. Mahabharata time India was very sophisticated and structured in its social structure, and everything had a reason, and they used to follow it for a reason. If they used to break it, there used to be another reason. So everything was really, really sophisticated. But the Rigvedic time, people were exploring, people were discovering. So it was a much more, in our terms, say, an open society.
Okay.
Right? In the Sindhu Saraswati civilization, where the most of the Rig Veda happened, right? That was, that was slightly different from, say, the Gangetic civilization that Mahabharata happened in. So then the society, then there was monarchy as well as democracy. The women, the status of women was really, really exalted, not like the post-colonial or pre-colonial, post-colonial times that we are basing our opinions on. So all those aspects I had to keep in mind to weave the whole story, because the first challenge was that the detail about Vishpala was just limited to 3-4 hymns, just a couple of hymns. The only story that I could make out was that she was a warrior and she lost her leg in this event called Khela's battle.
Mm-hmm.
And Ashwini Kumaras, they gave her a prosthetic leg. And the fact that it was a metal leg was mentioned. Now, come to this point, because the whole Puranic Vedic story, the lore of stories, it's filled with the stories of miracles, where where somebody blind, he gets his eyesight because of any of the Devata's grace. The Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim. So we have that shloka.
Right, right.
So this was not a miracle.
Okay.
So the metal is mentioned very clearly. So if it was just a magical event, away from what we call as reality, what most of our time calls as reality, it could have just happened like that. But this was a scientific breakthrough. This was
it's a surgical procedure, basically.
Yes. So the metal is mentioned. So I see many of the detractors, whenever this post gets shared in a lot of pages, there are some people questioning why did they have to do prosthesis when they could give her a whole leg or something like that. Those stories are also there. But this is a proof that this was a scientific breakthrough and not just a religious, not a one-off incident. Because miracles happen, I believe them, but they are very personal in nature. They are not universal. They are personal to the person to whom it happens. But this is something universal.
Right.
That a metallic leg could make the queen, go back and fight. right? That speaks about a lot of things, about the scientific breakthrough, about the actual grit that women of those days used to have. So, look at feminism, look at science. That that period had everything, which is why it compelled me to craft a whole full-length story. Uh, yes, as I said, only the details that were available were really, really less. It's not like Mahabharata where the whole world is just made and my job was just to explore. Right here, I
Right.
had to rebuild, I had to connect a lot of dots and rebuild, which was again a very fulfilling experience. I could explore many of the concepts that, that get questioned these days in Avishi.
Right. Right. So, so basically, is this the book that's your, would you call this your, I know this is not the most recent book you've written, but this is the most recently published book. Is that the right way to understand it?
Yes, actually,
I
what
know you
happened,
self-published. Go ahead.
this was my self-published version appeared in 2017.
Okay.
Then, I had traditional publisher also approached me, but they had their ideas. They wanted me to write on Draupadi Rupa publications. They wanted me to write on Draupadi. Then they wanted me to write on Rukmini. And especially Draupadi was another kind of challenge. So Avishi was something, was a story that there was not much of detail about. And Draupadi has been written, rewritten, reimagined, retold infinite number of times that I wondered what can I add to the whole dimension.
Right.
So even reimagining Draupadi as the empress, because again, most of the the modern literature on Draupadi somehow likes to imagine her as some victim or some with all those victim of patriarchy, and then there is this angle of Karna Draupadi romance, which is like not mentioned anywhere in the Mahabharata. There's like totally no proof for that.
Okay.
No suggestion also. And, if not for a couple of incidents, Draupadi wouldn't even have recognized Karna. I mean, have acknowledged Karna's existence. She was that distant to him.
Okay.
So all those, so I thought this would be an opportunity for me to explore Draupadi as she was in the Vyasa's Mahabharata. She was an intellectual powerhouse. She is not, she's neither a victim nor a, nor somebody seeking revenge all the time. But she is an intellectual powerhouse who knows when a war is necessary and when it is not.
So literally, as she's an able counselor to to the Pandavas.
She's very much an able counselor. Her discussions with Yudhishthira in the Vanaparva are a revelation. They are so power packed from a philosophical sense, from an intellectual sense. They are so power packed that your respect just goes up. And to actually debate with Yudhishthira, one needs to be very well read, because Yudhishthira is somebody who's well read in all Shastras, and to debate with him, even like Yudhishthira's brothers, the other Pandavas, disagree with him, but they cannot debate with him. If you actually explore the Mahabharata, they'll give some reasons. Yes, there is the only place where they give better arguments than him is the Rajadharma Parva. But most of the Mahabharata, he's the one who has an intellectual upper hand. But Draupadi is the one who could debate with him on his terms.
So this is your conclusion, or this is actually how she's presented in the Mahabharata?
This is how she is presented in the Mahabharata. So even if if I had managed to capture like say 10% of that, I would be really proud of myself.
Wow, beautiful. What about your other books? What about Rukmini? What about?
Yes, Rukmini followed Draupadi from the same publisher, Rupa. And yes, as I mentioned before, I love exploring Krishna from all angles. And Rukmini, to me, is a game changer in the Mahabharata, the Bhagavata Mahabharata narrative. So I saw her as a political game changer as well, as well as have someone having that spiritual and civilizational outlook, superior outlook in those planes. So before she married Krishna, Jarasandha had a free run in shaping the political destiny of a lot of kingdoms. But the minute she defied Jarasandha's fixing her marriage with Shishupala and married Krishna, the whole story took another turn.
Okay.
Right? Because Vidarbha was forced to become somewhat neutral.
Mm-hmm.
And parallelly, Pandavas rose to power. Krishna Pandavas got together. And of course, Draupadi had a great role to play there. So between Rukmini and Draupadi, they changed the whole political course of the Mahabharata.
Okay. Okay. So, is there any your other books? Which are the other books that we haven't discussed right now?
There's Mauri, which is like a sequel to Abhaya.
Okay.
Yeah, once I explored Abhaya, there were these wonderful characters. There was a very compelling character, Mura. Mura was the Senapati of Narakasura.
Okay.
And Krishna's battle with Mura is described in a greater detail than Krishna's battle with Narakasura himself.
Okay.
And that got me thinking, because generally the Rakshasa, the Asura who has all the boons, he takes the whole stage space in the Puranic narrative. But here the commander is coming and taking a lot of stage space when it comes to the fight. And then I discovered from a story in Skanda Purana that Mura's daughter eventually became the wife of Ghatotkacha.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. So I wanted to write a sequel where, like we have explored Krishna from a romantic as well as a devotional sense of view with Abhaya and Rukmini. And so Mura's daughter is bound to have some antagonizing outlook towards Krishna. He killed her father, so it's natural for her to feel angry and vengeful. So I wanted to explore that rasa and how again, association with Krishna can transform a person. Filled with those vengeful thoughts. So Mauri was that story. So these three, Abhaya, Avishi, Mauri, were self-published while I parallelly worked on Rukmini and Draupadi. And recently, call it a miracle or a blessing. I'd prefer to call it a blessing. So Bloomsbury, India, they acquired the rights for my self-published books and they relaunched, which is why you're seeing them come out in the recent past.
So do you want to share a little bit about who are the people, who's your audience? I mean, in terms of where has your books found, yeah, I think that's a kind of, I'm assuming that they are right now, everything is in English. So obviously this is English speaking, people are more comfortable, consuming these stories in English. But yeah, I'll let you speak a little bit about
yes. So my ideal audience, if I want to profile an ideal audience, is somebody from their 20s to 40s, 50s, who have lost most of the connect with our past, but are trying to rediscover their roots.
Okay.
And I want my books to be a bridge, So, because nobody can parallel Vedavyasa, nobody can parallel Valmiki. We can only try to be a bridge connection to a lot of people who are in the frontiers of civilization. We have to bring them back and just say, okay, this is just one story in the whole corpus, the whole cosmos of literature created by Vedavyasa, composed by Vedavyasa. So there's a lot more to explore out there. If this has wowed you, if this has really held you spellbound, there is a lot more.
Right. So let's move a little bit away from the books themselves how do you, obviously from what I'm reading between the lines, you're a practicing Hindu, and how do you see yourself, as a Hindu? How do you connect with that? And there's so many different ways people can do that, whether it's your lifestyle or how you think about them. I'm curious to hear it from you.
So again, I don't think I can boast of a lot of a very.
No, I'm not. It's not like a boast. It's really like, what is your experience? That's really what I'm asking you. It's yeah.
My experience, yes, I am born into a family of Satya Sai devotees. You can see the Sai in my name. So we believe, I grew up believing in the first concept of seva, because that's what Bhagavan teaches us. Because, there are religious practices which we should keep practicing, and we should, try to pass them on to the next generation. But we also have a social duty of binding this universe together, and that can be done through seva. So my grandparents used to go to the super specialty hospital and serve as volunteers there in the canteen, where one has to clean up the plates, plates eaten that people would eat. So there is a lot of there are a lot of lessons that one very implicitly learns by just participating in the activity. And as a young child, I used to try and participate, and it used to be, I would say, a fun experience as well as a very elevating experience. There's a lot that happens which we don't recognize, and something that happens which we know of. Right. And so I used to feel so energetic and, enthusiastic to participate. Okay. And then go to school and tell, hey, I did seva, we did all these things and I learned this. The way they collect the coupons in the canteen, or the way they serve food, they first serve salt and all those things that we implicitly learn.
Right.
Just participating. And it was a very enriching experience, the whole. And then growing up, then my uncle's family was also involved in adopting these orphanages and short stay homes, and I used to go and teach the children there mathematics, and then try and that was another kind of experience. So this whole seva dimension actually makes us a better, I think it transforms us from within.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, if we can have a small part in changing someone's life for the better, that's a great thing. That's a blessing, actually.
Right.
So
Right.
Yes. So from seva, I think then I started exploring about the philosophical aspect about the self, and about how easy it is for us to connect to a total stranger. Then what is it that connects me to an orphan there in that orphanage, or somebody coming to Patti to the hospital, or that. And these kind of queries and thinking led me explore all this. Again, my connection with these stories was always there, so I used to search, and one thing led to another. I also practiced all the rituals, most of the rituals that my parents taught me. Their practice is much more intense. I have to admit that I am not as intense a practitioner as they are, but and with the discipline, the ritual discipline and all. And there always comes a phase where we think, okay, that's too much. That's, maybe a blind belief, or what's the use of doing that kind of, there are always these phases where we think that, and then there is a phase where we realize that they were right all along.
Okay.
So in that journey, I think I discovered the value of discipline, the ritual discipline. That also transforms us, and especially so it comes back to this karma, bhakti, and jnana, right? Jnana, yes, you read all those the whole texts and try to interpret them. Then karma, there is seva, And then there is bhakti, in which you indulge in this in the ritual discipline and try and make that relationship with Bhagwan. And they are not actually three different paths. Somehow we are taught that, okay, there is a path of karma, there's a path of bhakti, and there's a path of jnana. But I think an individual can follow all the three paths.
Right.
And like Rajaji says, karma is for the limbs. We have karmendriyas, so that is for the limbs. And jnana is for the brain, for the buddhi to develop, and bhakti is for the heart. So we have all the three, so we can follow all the three.
Okay. So you're now, are you, do you have a family now? You have your own family now, or what is your?
Yes.
Okay.
So I have a wonderful family and a very hyperactive daughter of 4 years.
Okay. Are you also working like as a, like you were trained as an engineer and you were working as a professional? Are you still continuing to work while writing, or are you?
Not anymore.
Okay.
So actually, destiny had taken us to London, where I finally got the time to write Abhaya.
Okay.
Till then, my career was really, really demanding. I could not devote much time to my career, to my writing. And when I had to move countries, I got that break. I just took it with both hands and pursued writing. Then my daughter was born, and we returned, and I just continued whatever way I could. And then the whole pandemic broke, and so I just continued on this path, and it was rewarding in so many levels.
So had you been wanting to make the transition, and you just had not found kind of a, and it was just that everything came together? Is that how you? So did you always aspire to be a writer or a storyteller? I mean, if you write one book, yes, you can say, yes, you got it done. But then not only have you done one book, you've continued, and now you've written, we're talking 5-6 books. So can you share a little bit about your evolution as you've done this? And so you are a full-time writer right now, basically.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
if you could share something about your evolution, like from the time you wrote your first book to now, that would be quite interesting for us.
Yes, I believe stories find their storytellers. Okay. So each of the stories that came to me, Saraswati bless me, but I never had to search for an idea to write. Mm-hmm. So even as now I'm writing my first non-fiction book comparing Mahabharata and Chanakya's teachings, the Arthashastra, and basically the teachings of Bhishma in Mahabharata. I have some more ideas waiting in my mind, to which I have to attend to, and that is basically my next 5 to 7 years covered. And as I work on one story, 2-3 more ideas come, like just how Vishpala happened when I was researching Abhaya.
Right.
It also happened. So each story leads to the other, leads to the next, and then there is a lot of learning involved. Now, this is what I call as creative and literary learning. Then you research, and there's this whole path, and there is also a requirement. I mean, I would advise any aspiring author, especially if they are working in this genre, to also learn some additional skills which would make the whole journey easier for them.
Okay.
Make friends with technology, digital marketing. So we have to, once we publish ourselves, even traditionally published authors, for that sense, they have to do their own marketing first and reach out. There are people waiting to help. When we reach out, there are people like how you wonderfully responded when I reached out. Yeah. So there is always, and keeping on helping other authors. I love to do that. People who are just beginning their journey and they come to me for advice, I'd love to guide them to whatever extent I can, or just shortening their learning curve. Whatever I took 2-3 years to figure out, I don't think other authors should do that. They can figure out with people telling them. So yes, helping other authors has been a wonderful part of my journey, and I learned editing as well. Though I cannot edit my own books, it's always good to have a third person look at the story. So there's a lot of learning that happens even as we help others.
Right. So I'm going to honor your. I know you have something you need to attend to.
Yes.
So I just want to say that it's just been fascinating, and I feel really we just scratched the surface. And if we'd love to speak with you again, there's so many other things we can cover, and I think listeners can benefit so much from the breadth and depth of, and even just for people to even for people to talk about Rigvedic times. I mean, that's just somehow in our discourse, in the societal discourse, it has just been something on the shelf we've kept and not really brought it. So now to have something available there, it is brought to life, and so I think there's so many things that this whole mythological fiction is opening up, I think, for people in terms of understanding, especially at a time when people are looking, they're more curious about their identity and what it means and things like that. So is there anything in particular that you would like to mention now before we kind of wind up today?
To your wonderful page, I would say you're doing a wonderful job, and thank you for the whole opportunity for giving me this platform. I'm really, really grateful. And to the viewers of whatever shades of Hinduism, I would always say, please be proud of your identity. There is a lot to be proud of, and there is a lot to be explored that will make you proud and humble in its own way. And it's a wonderful journey in this path of Dharma. So just stick to it. That has its own wonderful rewards. And keep reading literature. Read the Sanskrit source if you know the language. Otherwise, try to read translations in Indian languages first before you go to English language translations. And when you go to English language translations, make sure that the translator is connected to the whole tradition. Right.
There's integrity in the. You want to know the antecedents of the author and as well as the book, that it's integrated to the.
That helps.
Right.
And even then, you can explore fiction, which has its own beautiful side to it of storytelling. Once we know the core, it's always a very nice journey to explore the frontiers. But we have to have our focus on the core.
Right. So, Saiswaroopa ji, thank you so much for giving us this insight into your world and letting us know about your books. And I'm so excited. In fact, in getting ready to speak with you, I myself got a little chance to do a little bit of research. And so this whole world of mythological fiction is actually quite new to me. And so I really see so many avenues opening up for people, whether as a reader or even people who professionally want to explore something like this. It's just so beautiful to see this explosion that's happening in this space. So let's bring our conversation to a close. I'd like to close with the Purna Mantra. And again, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Srimati.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat Sarvam Bhagavad Nithyananda Paramashiva Padukarpanamastu. Om Nithyanandam